This is best I can do. This face.
We are Squawking Dead, a podcast pulverizing programs beyond the Walking Dead universe. Sometimes we give you news, and sometimes we make you laugh, but most times we go deep.
That's weird.
What are you doing?
Off-putting.
I'm your host, David Cammy, and I'm joined by...
Lazy Gardener.
And Bridget. You can find me at youtube.com/@punkybrewster. That's PUNKYBRUISETER.
We're going to have a conversation with you about Darkwind's second episode of season 3 titled Náá'tsoh, aka in English, Big Eyes. The first episode was called Big Monster. This episode is called Big Eyes. The first thought I had in my head when I heard the title, I was like, oh yeah, obviously Jenna Elfman. She's a very exciting person. She gets excited about things, as evidenced from our interviews with her. She's into the work she does.
I was trying to figure out where the title fit in and who it was referring to, and I kind of landed on Bernadette.
Right. Trying to seek out the truth. Big
Right.
Eyes. Burning like fire.
Much like the last episode title, I feel like it could apply to a number of people, but I really was leaning more towards Bernadette, again, because she's wide-eyed, also in the sense that she's a little naive. There were some times in this episode when I was genuinely afraid for her, but here she's among strangers who don't have any respect for her like they do on the res. She's thinking that she's just going to plow ahead and do what she's doing and there aren't going to be any repercussions to it.
Right, and it's not the res, and she doesn't know with whom she is dealing.
Exactly.
And it's never more evident than one of the last few scenes where she's doing this way in with the guy that we saw from the first scene.
I am like, make him go get back in the front of the truck and sit before you... What are you doing?
Then you realize why she doesn't, because it's like, maybe I made a huge mistake.
That was terrifying. That scene was
That's
horrible.
exactly.
I
That was when I
100%
was. That
agree.
was where it hit me, because I was like, I am genuinely afraid for her this season because she is not being smart.
I was afraid for her similarly to the way I was afraid for Jim Chi in season 2. He too was dealing with a situation that he didn't completely know, and he gets shot.
Mhm.
And he's out for most of the season.
When he snuck into the People of Darkness thing, I was like, dude, what are you doing? You are going to get seen.
I love what they're doing to these two characters, mirroring them
Well,
seasonally.
I think the other side of that is that, yes, has Bernadette put herself in some positions that she's been really compromised? I think so. It's scary. But on the other side of it, she's also very stubborn and super determined to receive the truth.
She's like Bridget watching Silo.
That makes her good then at her job, because she will not relent until she can figure this out. People are telling her, stop doing what you're doing. You're messing with the wrong people.
And that reiterates the question, though, that I asked in the prior episode. Is that her job?
As Border Patrol, not really.
Right.
Well, yeah, she's trying to be a detective, even though
I'm not
she's a
sure.
Border Patrol agent. Yeah.
I'm not ready to say yes or no.
She's making serious mistakes, like leaving her gun behind when she went chasing after that woman that allowed her gun to be
Yes.
stolen. That on the res could probably be forgiven because none of the people on the res are likely to shoot her with her own gun or anything like that. But she's in an area where she doesn't have that cushion around her. This is not the reservation. But what you were saying, Dave, about them mirroring them, I saw it in this episode too, where while Chi is kind of spiraling into his old grudges with Shorty Bowlegs, Bernadette is kind of realizing that living away from the reservation this time is different than when she was in the school. She's discovering that it's not what she experienced when she was a child. She's experiencing and learning and growing, and I feel like Chi is spiraling back into the old hatreds and grudges rather than experiencing the res as he should.
I feel like I'm stating the obvious in saying this. When it comes to her, I feel like, you know how you get in your head that you ought to reach for the stars, or you ought to do something with your life that is outside of what is expected of you? I feel like she's going for that, but she's finding out every single time that you're in this position where you're an agent and not and I'm not a detective, and yet you're still acting like a detective. It's like a leopard trying to change its spots. You obviously don't want this job, but you feel like this is the only way that you can make it. You know, it's kind of like that American dream. If I can make it here, I can make it anywhere, or I can move on up, or I can do better. It's like the Jeffersons.
She went from a small community where there wasn't a lot of room to move up, but now she's moved into this huge conglomerate where you're just a faceless person and you have to wait your turn, and you're not going to be able to just move up. I mean, you could have stayed there and taken over Leaphorn's spot eventually and probably made the same progress that you're going to make here.
Yeah, it's all relative. So she had a false impression of what it would be like.
She probably had a somewhat romantic notion of Border Patrol as rescuing people and doing what she's doing, trying to solve crimes and stuff like that. And then she gets there and realizes, well, this is not what the Border Patrol is at all.
Or to put a name on it, feeling like she could make more of a difference with more people. And yet, oh no, that's a lie. Or maybe this is a mirror for what Sylvia says, or what the conversation between Sylvia and Leaphorn in this episode, white people's justice or whatever, is there any other kind? And then you realize, oh, see, people in this white world get away with things also, and everybody's getting away with something everywhere. I did write this in my notes for the last episode, but I felt it might be a good idea to mention it now. It's kind of a bit of housekeeping because it was at the end of the last episode. There was an in memory of Joe Buffalino III, right before the credits of the last episode.
I looked him up to see what he had done, and it's a super sad story.
So he was the AD for Longmire, apparently, because he's credited in IMDb as Joe Buffalino II, but it was in memory of Joe Buffalino III.
There was a third and a second.
Actually, don't know his involvement on this show.
Yeah, that I don't know. So what I found out was that this was an article written in the Straits Times from Albuquerque, New Mexico. A Toronto production assistant whose income dried up because of the Hollywood strikes lost his housing and ended up living in his car. A New York set dresser slipped out of sobriety amid the stress. A New Mexico assistant director fell into a deep depression and took his life.
That's Joe.
They were among the hundreds of thousands of American and Canadian film and television crew workers who were unemployed for up to 10 months because of strikes called by actors and writers, leaving a trail of evictions and family disintegration. Crew members rallied to help one another, and charities pitched in during the writers' strike that began on May 2nd and ended in late September, and the actors' strike that started in July. The actors reached a tentative agreement last Wednesday, so this was written at the time, but it's too little too late at that point for the people who were so deeply affected. The actors and writers are getting a lot of publicity, but the crews are the collateral damage of the strike, said Miss Lori Rubenstein, executive director of mental health charity Behind the Scenes. Crew members lost health insurance and broke into retirement funds. They saw relationships collapse and became isolated and depressed as month after month they went without pay. They also lost the rush of a 70-hour work week, creating shows that cost hundreds of millions of dollars, according to union leaders, counselors, and over a dozen crew members at Reuters interviewed. And in the last 18 months, Ms. Rubenstein has put about 1,000 industry members through a mental health first aid training course to prevent suicides in a sector that struggles with substance abuse, workaholism, and bullying, according to crew members. I'm sorry, have you not seen the Justin Baldoni Blake Lively case?
Yes.
Bullying is literally happening in Hollywood right now.
I have two really good friends who worked under Dick Wolf Productions, and holy crap, the stories they've told me about broken cell phones and laptops and stuff. But that was like 20 years ago, just about.
Yeah. We talked to a celebrity mutual friend of ours who stated that during the strike, they were working as a barista.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to say who it is, but
yeah.
working as a barista to help cover rent and stuff. And it's like, you're an actor. And I remember you and I saying that's the worst part about all of this, is that the people that we know that are not A-list are losing their opportunities to just make ends meet.
Even the folks who you would seldomly consider like A-list or like known actors, where they have a name, they're not even just that guy, they're in trouble too. Mo Collins did touch upon it on the interview that we released a couple episodes ago, just before our recap.
The article continues with, he really truly needed to work, said Miss Pam Rosen, mother of Joe Buffalino, 32, New Mexico's youngest first assistant director. He is known for the film Silk Road, which came out in 2021, and a miniseries called Thai Cave Rescue in 2022. He committed suicide in August due to the strikes in 2024. And then Miss Rosen continues to say, at the point that he died, he saw no future. Obviously, there's other stories of other crew members struggling people living in their cars, sleeping on friends' couches because they don't have any other place to stay. I wasn't sure how he was related to the show. And obviously, this episode is airing considerably after that death. But what it did do is cause me to look him up, find out why he died and the circumstances surrounding it. If anything, it's just bringing light to that fact, which every show has a large crew. There's tons of people that are unnoticed, that are doing massive amount of work for your shows that you love to come out and for you to view them weekly. You're not noticing who does editing or who does cinematography or who does the set design or whatever. You don't even notice because they're not the actor. They're not on the screen.
Yeah, all the grips, all the lighting people, set design, wardrobe, etc. I'll extend this to the audience. If you or anybody else you know is affected by still as a residual from the writer's strikes, I mean, there's still stuff that is going on, and there's still kind of like an aftermath shockwave from all these protests and strikes and stuff like that. If you do, or you know anybody that is still affected by this stuff, have them reach out, or you reach out to us at giving@squawkingdead.com. I want to know more about your story, and I think it would be a good idea to continue the conversation. And as always, we like to try to work on charity relief of some kind. And so maybe we could think of something later on down the road after this round of shows is over. We can maybe set something up so we can help out whoever needs helping. And with your help, maybe we can do that.
A Christmas benefit in July.
Yeah, halfway to Christmas, kind of like what the camp does with the halfway to Halloween thing. It's like the Hallmark Channel.
And then don't do anything at Christmas because we're too busy.
Yeah, we'll say, well, it's halfway to summer.
Anything.
So this episode, just to kind of give a overall 30,000 foot view, it centers around finding Ernesto Cata's body.
They need to find George.
Lieutenant Leaphorn goes to the morgue. He's seeing visions of BJ Vines. He's seeing visions of I'm going to call it like a wraith, I guess, but I kind of want to call it a walker.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
It is absolutely terrifying.
They are very much leaning into the supernatural this season.
A little bit more, but I still think this show has a way of making you still on the line. I know it's been very convincing, but it still has its foot in reality. And we're going to go through some of that.
It's definitely leaned more into horror this season than it has in the past two.
Yeah, there's a lot more of the unsettling anticipation.
Mm-hmm.
The wind's blowing.
The wind's blowing and then it stops.
Mm-hmm.
It just
it's if it's blowing in the barn to show him where to look.
Terrifying. That was terrifying. Where I was like, "Is this all in his head?"
And then the ants going up the wall. What?
I don't know.
That's a Walking Dead callback right there. The ants.
Well, actually, if we're gonna go Walking Dead, every time he's about to see the wraith, you hear what? Are you guys wearing headphones when you're watching this? Because you should be.
Yeah, I literally am because I can only watch it on my computer.
The Negan whistle right beforehand, each and every time.
When she found Shorty and he was like, "What kind of Navajo are you whistling at night like that?"
Oh, interesting. He was whistling Dixie, though. I actually don't know what he's whistling. It sounded like an old-timey white tune, though.
What it made me think of, Sharon D, is the fact that in Appalachia, out in your neck of the woods, you do not trust whistling in the woods, and you are not supposed to whistle in the woods.
If I'm in the woods and I hear whistling that doesn't sound like someone calling their dog, I'm
out.
Leaving immediately.
I am out.
If someone's like, "Here, boy," calling their dog or whatever, that's one thing. But if I just hear, I'm like, "Oh, peace."
Yeah. You hear Negan whistling, period. Pants be pooping.
Yeah.
There's actually a book entitled Never Whistle at Night, an indigenous dark fiction anthology.
Oh, okay. You looked this phenomenon up. That's
edited
funny.
by Shane Hawk and Theodore C. Van Alst Jr. Well, I assume that Appalachian belief stems from Native Americans. That was my automatic assumption.
Turns out everybody hates whistling.
It was
everywhere.
it was like, oh, obviously that came from Native Americans. Clearly, there's a belief about whistling. The title of the anthology refers to a belief common in many indigenous cultures that whistling at night can attract malevolent entities.
Oh,
The act of night whistling is forbidden by many Native American cultures due to a shape-shifting entity known as a skinwalker or Stekini or Stekini. I don't want to say it wrong. Stekini.
Well, I mean, you said one of the books was titled Skinwalker, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It responds to the whistling call, causing harm to those who encounter it. Native cultures use storytelling to pass down knowledge and history, including folklore, which is why this is like an anthology of that folklore. These are the stories that are attached to this concept of whistling at night. I'd be really interested in reading it, honestly. It's probably a great read. They say that scary stories often carry deeper meaning, serving as lessons and warnings. And so the person who's writing this goes on to like mention their favorite stories from it.
One more factoid about when Joe Leaphorn sees the Wraith, the Skinwalker, perhaps even.
The ancestor.
Let's say we're even talking about Skinwalkers. Skinwalkers are typically a type of shapeshifter. Something that was something and can be something else, generally speaking. Just keep that in your head. But in the meantime, I want you to understand, in this episode, 2 of the 3 times that Joe Leaphorn sees the Wraith or the Skinwalker, who does it turn out to be that's just behind the curtain or just...
Senna. I told you he was the bad guy.
I don't like it.
Stop it. I don't like it.
He's
I love
so-
him. Don't do that.
No, I can't. I can't handle A. Martinez being a bad guy.
I'm like, wow, I picked it up in the 2nd season. I was just
I
ahead of
know.
it.
Listen, I will give you all the praises if you end up being right.
Look, you should feel good because he was the super good guy on Santa Barbara. He was a cop, like the super good guy. He was the hero of the show.
You said
So.
was. Did that change somewhere down the line?
Well, then his evil twin showed up. I'm just kidding. I don't know that, but
The soap ended, so nothing ever happened.
So that could explain why he kind of turned... I like to use the word heel over villain. He was kind of the heel on Longmire.
how wrestling fan of you, Dave.
It's just an easier... Because, right, it's not obvious, and heels can sometimes turn into heroes.
Face, Dave. Face.
You have hero and villain, so you need like the middling word in there, and anti-hero just sounds weird.
Heel is like just the best descriptor you can... Because like they're not necessarily... Like even... I forget the character's name on Longmire, but he was like the native chief. I forget the people he was chiefing.
Yeah.
But still, he ran the casino, kind of like in Yellowstone. And it's not that he was a bad guy necessarily, even though it's at several points he was very sus. But he had the best of intentions, obviously, because there was a lot of pressure on him to lead everybody in the right direction and inspire and elicit success from his community. So I get it. They had to keep you guessing, at least on this show, as to his intentions and what his limits were and what he was capable of or how far he was willing to go. And he plays it really well. In fact, like when I see him on this show, it's just so night and day. His character on Longmire is so bravado. He sticks his pelvis out all the time. In this show, he's like, oh crap, I got to do work. He's like what was that guy from The Walking Dead? The middle management guy from The Saviors that rolls up on Ezekiel.
Oh, the guy who's lazy and doesn't really care all that much?
Jason Warner Smith plays him. It's Gavin.
Gavin.
But he's like that on this show. He's like, between Lethal Weapon and Gavin, it's like, I'm too old for this S.
I'm too old to care is really like what it is, yeah.
And yet he does, but he doesn't want to.
He does care.
And then he says, are you okay? I can take care of it from this. Please don't be the bad guy. Oh, he's so great.
I know. But maybe it's a red herring. Maybe it's meant to make you think that. I don't know.
Like the split focus in the last episode is his wife in some way. Is he the brightness and he's the darkness? But you know when you suddenly realize, oh, I'm actually immersed in this universe? This episode, right near the beginning, it was one of those moments. I was looking at Emma, looking at Leaphorn in the truck, and what happens is the vantage point of Emma from the house, she's looking outside the window at Leaphorn's car. The camera zooms in from that window, or at least that's what you're meant to believe, into the car. It was at that point I realized, oh, why do I feel like I actually am in the 70s? It's because between the sloppy split focus shots in the last episode, they're very sloppy, but that's how they looked like back in the day. And this type of filming, there was like it was a steady cam zooming in with the telephoto into the trucks. It was a little shaky and grainy. I felt like I was in a 70s television show. Between the aesthetics and the way it was filmed, there's no modern filming techniques. Even the scenes with the Wraith or the Skinwalker, they could have gone a little harder in the paint with the effects and the filming styles, but they didn't.
It almost looks like they took a plaster skeleton and draped some black over it and just like rushed it at the camera.
It's very, very practical effects, which is, to this day, practical effects just are better. There's something more off-putting about it. It's because it's so much more grounded. Even though you're like, that looks ridiculous, that couldn't be possible, you're seeing it.
Those ants were horrible, horrible CGI. the ants running up the wall and around. I'm like, that
It wasn't great.
It was so bad.
But it wasn't bad. That's the thing. It was just like
it
weird
wasn't
enough.
Walking Dead deer bad, but it was pretty bad.
No, not nearly even. Well, okay, so to that point, you can forgive that because it lends to the idea that, okay, this is spooky brain stuff. It kind of pops out of what the usual aesthetic is of the 70s immersive. I feel like I am there. And I hadn't realized it until this episode. So even when you see ants and stuff like that, or even when you see Spooky Beta S or whatever, even that Spooky Beta S, besides the ants, let's put the ants aside, looked 70s-ish. It felt immersive. It's like they could have gone harder, but they didn't want to break you out of the aesthetic or the feel that you were there. And I really loved that I could feel that, finally.
For one thing, being in the Southwest, you already have muted earth tones. But if you pair that
Everything's washed out.
Right. But again, if you pair that with 70s television where HD TV wasn't a thing and you didn't have those super bright colors and everything was grainy looking, that also helps, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Even seeing Sylvia Washington and Emma outside the Kayenta station, there was just something so washed out. She was wearing earth tones that were like in the sun, so it was like she didn't look quite right. Like they could have done better with the filming techniques to kind of make them more
well, to
sharp.
Be fair, Dave, we're talking the 70s. Earth tones were very, very in.
No,
we're
but
talking
even like her
so many
skin
varieties of brown and orange and and burnt orange and mustard yellow,
and green,
but like avocado green.
Mm-hmm.
Is that well? See, here's the thing.
green.
But you could have done color correction to fix that nowadays, but they didn't do that, so it felt more immersive.
Yeah,
her face is washed out in the sun, Sylvia Washington's, and the brightness is a little too high. They could have used a contrast effect to kind of make the color seem more even with the background.
I think that kind of plays up the harshness too. That glaring sun and just the harsh earth tones and colors.
Makes it feel like you are there with them. Even the freaking archaeology scenes in the trailer and all that stuff. And the way the sun looks as it kind of tries to go through the blinds, it makes everything look yellowy and
yeah, it did.
tar stained and whatnot. It just something about that just felt.
I don't know. It feels
70s.
like everything has that. You know when you smoke in your house?
Yes.
And it's got like that.
The
it's
tar
like the
stains.
Tar. It's so gross. That's what it's giving.
That's what it's giving,
off.
right?
It's like
no, it's giving.
No, Dave. You brought up the archaeological dig site.
On purpose.
They're guilty. They're so guilty. I'm so sorry, but I'm going to double down on this. I'm doubling down.
A gift shop, and he throws it on the floor. Evidence from a crime.
Yeah, and then he goes, oh.
Right. That was very off-putting, but do you think Teddy was banging that kid? Her reaction.
Oh, no, your worst
her
impulses.
reaction. Do you think that she was banging that kid, and that's why she's so freaked out? And are they part of the trafficking ring that Bern is?
But she's 400 and some odd miles away, though.
That doesn't matter. Trafficking rings like
she's
expand.
427 miles away. I recorded it from the first episode.
Were they grooming those kids or something like that?
Oh, boy.
To be taken? I don't know. I was just looking for her reaction, crying and getting all upset and sitting like that was very weird.
Let me just say this, Sharon D. I want to be very clear. It's not that I didn't think that there was maybe something untoward, but I quickly went, oh, great. If I'm the one to bring that up, everybody's going to look at me and go, oh, gross, Dave. I didn't think that at all. So I immediately thought of other things I could think of.
I mean, I didn't think of it, but now that you're saying it, I don't like it, but it's possible.
I was thinking more academic curiosity. That's really where my mind was primarily going.
So my thought was when I saw her crying was that she had something to do with it and she was feeling really guilty over it. Or the head person, whatever his name is, I don't know, the gruff man who throws the arrowhead on the ground like an idiot.
Yeah, the goofy fella. Who, by the way, is like that guy, the actor who plays a villain
that guy. Yeah, he is
all the
that
time.
Guy. I kind of thought like, okay, did he maybe say something that makes her kind of in her head, she's like, oh, he killed him?
But guys, they were at a conference.
And then she couldn't handle... Dude, I don't care. That was a lame excuse. Flimsy.
Why don't you believe them? Believe all women. Teddy Isaacs.
I'm going to tell you right now, I ain't believing that woman. Something about her. Something about her ain't right, Dave. Something about it is off. And I know that we're meant to feel that way, so maybe that's the red herring, but I don't trust it.
I think it's a dangerous mind situation.
They're part of the ring. Let's say they're being funded on their dig. And they said that the boys got into a fight and left, and that was when they didn't see him. But what if the boys had threatened to tell about something, and
That's
then
my thought.
the traffickers killed them and stuffed the arrowhead in their throat in the kid's mouth, because that wouldn't mean anything to the traffickers.
Correct. I'm like, the arrowhead, there's some intention there as like a kind of like a middle finger to Navajo people, I guess, because it doesn't really make any sense otherwise why you would do it.
Basically, he said it was like a Catholic desecrating the cross, and I'm like, yeah, but there's a whole lot of Catholics out there that wouldn't care.
As soon as he said that, in my head, I was like, it was a white person. It wasn't someone from the reservation. It was a white person. And that is what Leaphorn thinks at first. He's like, the arrowhead means it is not a Navajo person.
He immediately says it.
But then, because they find out that it's the fake ones, it's like, well, it could be then.
Right, because it's not a real arrowhead.
Yeah, because it's not real.
But what if it is a real arrowhead and that guy was just talking crap to him? He was hoping that he wouldn't take it, and he would be like, yeah, I don't really need that anymore. So he's like, yeah, this is just garbage. You can find it anywhere.
That's the thing that they need or whatever to get to the...
Right.
What was it? The Folsom
Did you
people
notice
and
that
the
there was a
points?
big chunk out of the side of
lance
it?
points. Yeah. It was a little too obvious that was the legit lance point. And he was just trying to say, oh, they're too finely... No, part of the thing about lance points is that they're too finely sharpened or they're too finely fluted or whatever.
So that was my thought about these archaeologists. This is why I was like, I think this is it. This is a tale as old as time. Dave, there's an archaeological dig site.
But
I
don't you
know.
think that's a little too obvious though? Because here's the thing, I'm on the Sharondy train here, because if you want to simplify this, that guy Butch, the shady 6-year-old, because I found out his age, 60-year-old, 62-year-old guy in the truck, and also in the beginning of the episode with the sunflower seeds hitting him. The Panther calls him Butch. Man. And his name is Roberto DeBaca. I think his name is his name. Yeah, Roberto C. DeBaca. You could link that guy to both groups. Fine, let's just go that far. He has a long haul and occasionally visits the archaeology site.
Well, they said long haul. That's why there was 2 drivers.
Right.
That's just what they were saying.
But he's just the
right. But what if they are driving up?
Guy.
What if they are driving up there? We're going up to drop off this oil and pick up a bunch of slaves to bring back or whatever.
Right. And so what I'm saying is, so he could have been the one to put it in the kid's mouth after he disposed of him. And of course he wouldn't care because he's the devil. He's the devil.
When he buried that guy at the beginning, I had 2 thoughts. The first one was about a Stephen King story where the guy wanted revenge because a mobster had killed his wife or something like that. And so he joined a road crew and he spent the whole summer digging a huge hole in the road and covering it up, and then the mobster drove into it and he buried him in it. It's a really, really, really old Stephen King short story. And then the second thing I thought about was Tremors, when the car got sucked down by the graboids and you could still hear the horn and the radio playing in through the dirt.
Yeah.
It made me think of that too. That was diabolical.
Wow. Well, was that meant to inform you that this guy was cartelish? You know what I mean?
Well, I think it's just to set up that he is a really bad guy and has no qualms about killing someone, as annoying as he may be, because the Panther was a freaking idiot.
And making them suffer too.
Yeah.
Right. And well, he enjoyed doing it.
Well, because he could have just killed him.
He wanted to hurt him in the afterlife. That's how
he could have just killed him and buried him. But he was like, I want to do this in the worst possible way.
I wonder if it was because the guy spit the sunflower seed shell on him that made him decide to go that way.
And that he stole his gun or stole the gun or whatever.
He stole the stolen gun.
I think the reason he killed him was because he stole Manuelito's gun, and he also was seen because he was the one that was driving the white van, and she saw the white van. Because he even says it. He goes, I could have gotten away and not gotten seen, but the gun was right there in the holster, so I just couldn't help but grab it. So I think that was why he got killed. That guy's like the executor. He does the executing.
Tying up loose ends.
Right.
I'm glad you said that because I'm an idiot, and I didn't know where the gun was from.
He was bragging about stealing Manuelito's gun.
I thought it was like something else. But to be fair, the episode drops us into that scene, and I was like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, it is very abrupt, yeah.
We're like, wait, who are these people?
Who is this gross guy?
And I don't like this guy. Why does he call himself the Panther? It's gross.
That's what I call myself.
Yeah, they never hear me coming or see me coming.
They call me the Panther.
You didn't hear to see it coming either, dude.
Yeah, exactly. That was why they did it that way. But all I could think about is nobody calls you the Panther.
60% of the time works every time.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the song that was playing was driving nails in my coffin. Yeah, which I thought was really cool.
Foreshadowing.
On the money.
Yeah.
You know what
Foreshadowing.
else? We didn't bring this up in the last episode, but when Bernadette's at the bar with her two colleagues, the other one, the guy whom I still don't know his name, the Yaqui native fella, whom we find out his parents are no longer with us as well. And he has a sister with a niece, is what he mentioned.
Mm.
They're at the bar, Bernadette Garza and the other guy. In the last episode, it's love the one you're with. Okay, love the one you're with. Okay, go to hell.
Mhm.
Go to hell. It's Jim Chi or nothing. Okay, and then this episode, it's what's his name from Creedence Coldwater.
Creedence Coldwater Creek, where you can buy
Cold Stone Creamery.
You can buy cowboy boots and a smart separate set in the same location. Coldwater Creek is like old ladies.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Is it John Fogerty?
John Fogerty. Thank you. Yes, it is John Fogerty from Creedence Clearwater Revival. And he's singing a song with the words, "The nighttime is the right time," basically. So, and then they, come on, dance. And he does this kind of.
I was like, why are they dancing so weird? And I was like, oh yeah, it's the 70s.
Yeah.
Again, I'm immersed.
Bernadette, she's wearing combat boots and her fatigues out on the dance floor.
I
And
know.
she's just like, okay, I'm gonna dance.
Damn, she looked good, doesn't she? Oh, it killed me.
It's not fair. It's not fair. If I was wearing essentially a workman's jumpsuit to work, I would look like the Michelin Man, Dave. It'd be like just rolls.
I'd look like the Muffin Man. So how about that?
I'd look like John Candy from Stripes.
That's not fair either, because everybody loves John Candy.
Stop it.
Anyway, so yeah, Bernadette looks all right. Well, it's fine. It's fine. It's okay.
Tailoring is an incredible thing.
Oh yeah, cinching.
I don't know if it means anything, but when they're in the coroner's office and he walks in, the scale, which they focus on closely, is off just a little bit.
Yeah.
Is that also something that kind of get you unsettled if you happen to notice it, that it's just a little off?
Like that things are slightly askew, that something's amiss.
Everything's off.
They really want us to look at that scale because it's right in the forefront of the shot.
Yeah.
Wasn't he like playing with it? I don't remember if he was, but wouldn't you start like laying your elbow down? My arm weighs 10 pounds. Ooh.
Let me weigh my gun.
But just
let me
looking
run
at me
out.
like she's never done it before.
I've done it in the grocery store, Dave. We've all done it.
You're there thinking, I've done it better though. I wouldn't have done that, Dave.
I wouldn't have put my arm in it.
I would have put my hair in it.
No, Dave, you try to put your head in it, okay? That's what everyone does.
Everyone,
Yes.
you're just scale shaming me right now.
I am. I'm scale shaming you. Your use of free will is not right.
To my point about that bar scene, they're like, put them together. And are we meant to hate that, or are we meant to accept that?
I mean,
or...
I kind of see it as, like I said earlier, is Bernadette is realizing that life outside of the reservation is not the horrible thing that she always thought it was going to be because of her previous experience. And she's learning that she can meet other people. Season 1, her big thing was he never asked my clan or anything like that. She didn't get all upset about that this time. Like that
great
was
point.
She's kind of learning that she can leave that part of her behind, but not leave it behind, if you know what I mean. She can still be her Native American self, but she doesn't have to be so like that, and that's okay.
Or like reduce her expectations. But there's another part of it too that I think is coming into play, and it's I don't know if it dawned on you, but it dawned on me, which is odd. It feels like every male character is sort of sizing her up or looking at her like from her boss to her colleague to even Tom Spenser in this episode, whom we meet for the first time. Bruce Greenwood is the actor.
Yep.
So each one of them kind of reduces her a little bit at first, and then they kind of get the size of her and they kind of step back a bit and say, oh, she's going to be annoying like every other person in my life.
I was going to say, she's
basically,
the pest to that side of the story.
To mirror the fact that there's flies.
One thing we didn't say last
She's the
week,
Sylvia.
that people who bring people over the border are called coyotes.
Coyotes, yeah.
And we did not mention that when we were talking about it last week.
They
So
seem
that
like
is
that.
also a pest. Farmers and ranchers definitely see them as pests because they kill livestock.
Predators, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
then here we are.
So the bar scene, you're saying like, are we supposed to hated or what.
accept it because they're hinting at it.
I don't think we're supposed to feel one way or the other. I think we're supposed to feel trepidatious about it, which is exactly how Bernadette feels about it.
Mhm.
She just had the conversation with Jim.
Because he's super attractive, and I think she acknowledges that in her face.
Oh, he is ridiculously handsome. Go on ahead, Bernadette. But she's just on the phone with Jim not that long before this. She puts her heart out there and says, it's really good to hear your voice. And he doesn't say anything in return. She pauses and she hangs up. And then Jim immediately starts to like shake his head and laugh because he knows that was his opportunity and he didn't take it. And he should have. And so he's kicking himself for that. Then she's like outside, and I would argue someone let the air out of her tires. She's lucky that guy showed up because
Let the air. She's lucky, quote unquote. I'm using quotes.
something about that felt really staged.
And I didn't recognize that guy when he first walked up to her. I didn't realize that it was her colleague. And I was like, dude, why are you just letting the stranger take over for you, Bernadette? I didn't realize it.
I know.
I was freaking me out. But
Hey, listen, more to the point, right?
maybe he's part of it. That's why he keeps telling her to stop.
Well, it feels like everybody is a little a part of it.
Well,
Looking the other way, you know?
Yes. I think some of it is like, hey,
It
if
is
you
not
push
our job.
if you push too hard, it's not even that, Dave. It's if you push too hard, you're going to lose your job. It has nothing to do with this is out of the realm of your job. Your job is to check at a way station. That is part of their job.
Mhm.
But they're saying, don't do
Probably
it.
exactly what she did that night.
Don't do it because this guy is bigger than us. This is BJ Vines again.
The Redux.
He's
Right.
the John Dutton of the border.
Well, wasn't that supposed to have both?
Yes.
John
Correct.
Dutton vibes? Yellowstone for the uninformed.
There's something to this. I am worried that she may become vulnerable and open herself up to this man because he is attractive and he is kind and he does want her to do well there. And also on top of it, he's also indigenous, so he's able to kind of share some of those. It's going to be different culture, obviously, but there's some of that is shared, those experiences that they've had so far. And so I am worried that out of anyone, I was most worried that he would be involved in this.
Mhm.
Him and I think her boss. But that is so obvious that I'm kind of thinking maybe he's
Backing
not.
away. He's just
Yeah.
more incompetent than involved. Yeah.
There's always her roommate, too. She has a room with her coworker, Garza, who likes to cook. And Garza is the one that is like, you have got to back off. Wait your turn.
For me, I feel like she's worried about Bernadette. That's how it feels. It feels like genuine concern. Some of it is like, you aren't listening to me. I'm telling you this. I am a woman. I also know what it's like to be a woman in this field. I'm telling you, stay away from this. It's going to get you hurt. Something's going to go wrong. And Bernadette is pushing past that, even though she's getting this advice. On the same side, I think she feels a little bit burnt that Bernadette isn't listening to her. And she's like trying to keep her out of trouble. But it's hard to say because all three of them have said, essentially, don't do this. Stop. The boss has switched her to way station duty, which I assume.
Sit down, you're rocking the boat.
Let's take that a little further because maybe he did that because it's at night, it's creepy, and he knows that that truck's going to be rolling through and them staring her down in stereo, both Butch or Debaka, and then the other truck driver, by the way, with the big eyes. He has big eyes. Náá'tsoh, the actual truck driver.
Yeah.
His eye sockets are huge. Anyway, them staring her down with their big eyes, that was a message that maybe it's not about the intel they're getting from Thomas Spenser. By the way, Spenser. So that when we do research later, because I didn't do it today, he might be an actual person in life.
Okay. Did anybody go back to see if the logo
Match
that
the
little girl-
scribbling?
Yeah. Is that even remotely the same? Because I was like, I feel like I would have known that was an S and an R.
I did not, but
Okay.
I feel like, you know what? It's got to be, so I'm going to let it go. Because what the heck was that in the first episode? It's like, no way that was a thing.
It looked like abstract art in the first one.
I know.
It looked like I felt bad what I was about to say when I thought what I first thought. And I was like, oh my God.
A little Picasso going on.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it. Let's move on. So RS, it's basically an R with a back. No, it's an S
SR.
with a backwards R, right? Because it's Spenser Ranch,
Yes.
like Dutton Ranch. Or Yellowstone, right? Anyway, whatever. We're going to keep going hard on the Yellowstone today.
Well, there's a lot of similarities.
Yeah, but he is a fairly charming man.
there is no way that building that she asked about
With the
has
vapors?
fumes in it. That is
Right.
not the problem.
That was dumb. That was a dumb answer.
He was basically saying if you go into that shed, you'll breathe your last breath because that's where all the.
Well, because that's where
trafficked
we're
people
keeping all
are.
the trafficked people.
Also, it's very crowded in there, and it's quite possible there's no room for you.
It may take your breath away when you
Yeah.
open the door because they're in
Yeah.
horrible living conditions.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Like chickens
Yeah.
in factory farming.
They're down there making different plates for me to put on the van.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly. Exactly.
wow.
It was the same van. It has to be.
It totally is.
It
The
had a
fenders,
big dent in the back of it. Yeah, the big fender hanging off the
bumper.
back of it.
Yeah.
They just like
Uh-huh.
kind of rinsed it off or something. Bruce Greenwood is definitely that guy. He was most recently in Fall of the House of Usher on Netflix.
I know him from when he played JFK in 13 Days, which is a super good movie.
He was also in Doctor Sleep with Zahn McClarendon. A ton of DC voiceover work. He was mostly Batman / Bruce Wayne. He was in J.J. Abrams' Star Trek in 2009 and also Star Trek Into Darkness as he played Captain Pike, basically
Captain
on that,
Pike.
in that
Okay,
movie.
cool.
Yeah, he's a total like captain of a starship command.
He's got the look.
He's the same as what's his name? The newer Star Trek series called,
Strange New Worlds.
who is also Captain Pike, by the way.
I was going to say, isn't it also Captain Pike?
Anson Mount.
When you said he voiced Batman, I was like, that makes sense. He's got like a voice for that.
He's got a voice for Batman.
For someone who's that guy, he's got a very commanding presence.
A register to his voice too.
Yeah.
And he's been acting longer than I've been alive. So his first recorded credit was 1977. You know, I don't have what the movie was, but he's been in everything. He's that guy. He's always the bridesmaid, never the bride, technically, of a show. He's like the Clint Howard.
No,
He's
don't
kinda-
say that, Dave.
Mm-mm.
I mean, not like the comic relief part
He's
of that,
not
but like,
Clint Howard.
but you know him by his face. But the other way, I want to actually do him, not Clint Howard.
Not Clint.
Poor Clint Howard.
I know.
I think he's a terrific actor too.
He didn't
Clint
ask
Howard.
for that face.
I know, yeah. It all went one way, you know. It just went to Opie.
Well, I mean, it has made him money over the years, you know.
Oh yeah, it did. Who's got the last laugh? Clint Howard.
Well,
That's what this episode title is
probably
gonna be
Ronnie
titled.
Well,
Howard,
that's
but
All right, technically you're right, but still, but he has less responsibility, you know.
I have red hair and a big forehead. I'm gonna go claim that I'm a Howard now.
there you go.
Oh yeah, like his daughter. What's his daughter's
Bryce
name?
Dallas
Bryce
Howard.
Dallas.
Bryce Dallas. Yeah.
I'm gonna
Look
go
her.
claim I'm an illegitimate child of
I'm-
Ron
I'm
Howard.
Bridget Mason Howard.
Our lineage has been known to be monsters in deserts, scorched by the sun.
To your point, Sharon D, about Bernadette kind of wrestling with the world, sort of like what Jim Chi does in the second season. I do like that Jim Chi is finally reconciling his past. He's kind of wrestling with who he was so that he can find his place in the world too.
Yeah.
And that in the same episode, he sort of finds a middle ground with Shorty Bowlegs about his son, George.
That's what I liked, Sharon, when you were saying like he's holding this grudge, because that was the bulk of the episode is him like really
That's
he will
who he
not
is.
let this go with Shorty. I mean, it's embarrassing, honestly. When he comes
Yeah.
out and in front of
Senna and Leaphorn.
he's like, no, it's him. It has to be. It's like, bro,
And then Senna
slow
reminds
down.
him that you
Slow
said it
down.
yourself, Leaphorn. They could have
Slow
been a
down.
native. They wouldn't do
Yeah.
that. He was like,
slow
no,
down. So
just be
inappropriate.
like Shorty. Come on.
So for him to have that heart to heart in the barn before they leave while Shorty is prepping the horse showed a lot of growth that we didn't really get to see so far. Because it's like anytime he had growth, he like backpedaled, right? It was like he had growth in season 1 and then he backpedaled.
Can we say out loud, when you actually think about that, as annoying as it is, because we saw it. Once you get into season 2, oh, Bernadette and he are not together.
Oh, it's
What?
realistic. It's
Realistic.
it is realistic.
Exactly. How many of us are like that? We get yay far and then, well, no, I can't touch the ring, or no, that's not meant for me. Oh, no risk, no reward. No, how about no risk at all? Let's
Yeah.
not do that. Ooh.
I don't think he went there to do that. I was glad he was able to like talk himself down from that ledge because I was like, this is going to be really bad.
I was worried until he said, I'm going to go get Leaphorn and then we'll all go together. Because I was like, please do not ride out alone in the darkness. That's not going to be good.
Boy,
You're going to get shot again.
the running gag. And if he gets shot, like, we all have to drink on air. We just have to chug a whole beer.
Oh.
Can you imagine if he gets shot multiple times?
Can I just do a shot?
Oh, sure, yeah. But it's what they said. Let's not do to George what was done to you, essentially. Basically, for the sake of the kid, let's set this aside and not repeat history here. Because he doesn't deserve that. What's between us is between us. His friend died. Let's get to the truth.
We don't want to make your son suffer for our bad blood.
Right.
Right.
And that's real. And the kids died. Why play with that? One thing I wanted to note about Chi, on the heels of what you said about how he is kind of sort of struggling, but then he kind of comes to a resolution, at least with this part of his life, this bullying part. The way he speaks, at least at first, sounds different than the way he sounded in the first 2 seasons.
He's carrying himself like he's depressed or...
But he's even, like, his speech pattern is different too.
Well, I don't know. To me, it kind of came off like, was this the heartbreak being exhibited that Bernadette left and he ended up staying? And now he's kind of feeling lonely and out of place. And now he has to confront his past, which is probably like the last thing he wants to do.
True. I wasn't thinking that that hard. I just thought, like, well, and maybe on the heels of that, it's kind of like, well, then is he struggling to also kind of figure out who he is before he can figure out who he is with Bernadette?
I think so, probably. That's really what you want. When you get like a slow burn romance in a show, that's really what you want, is to see them become who they're meant to be with that person. So Chi was kind of would you say like a bit of a philanderer? Like
he was what my parents would call a playboy.
My husband is shaking his head in the kitchen. Are you shaking your head at me?
Say he's a man of the night.
A man of
Don
the night.
Juan.
He's the night man.
Yeah, Don Juan. That's great.
He's a
Juan.
regular Don Juan.
Which I have to say, I didn't say this when we did a recap, but
He's
what
Joanna
kind
man.
of idiot drives that vehicle as a private investigator? The most obvious vehicle. It's loud. You have your radio turned up so loud. People know what you're listening to. You 2 racing stripes. You absolute idiot. Everyone knows that you're following them.
Those sunglasses with the straight top and the thing, and it looks like a child wearing, I don't know, it's really...
That's what he
I don't know.
is. He is a child.
I agree. That is probably the most accurate way to say
But
that.
yeah, like his haircut is different now. We're meant to see, I think,
Him
some
grow up?
growth here.
Well,
yeah.
Now that he's on the res, maybe he'll let his hair grow out. Well, the short hair was to distance him from his past, but also probably wasn't super welcome in the FBI. Now that he's embracing his past and his Native American roots, maybe that's something that's going to change. He'll let his hair
Or
grow
like at
back
least his
out.
identity, right? Because like even down to his accent is what I was really more referring to. His accent sounds different than what it was. He's like kind of swinging the pendulum a little too much this way. Maybe he'll find a happy medium. But to your point, going back to that phone call where he said nothing, I feel like also there is a bit of resentment there too, as he is literally holding his breath. Doesn't know what to say. On the one hand, you're the one who felt like she had to leave in spite of this, the thing that we have, just like I did at the end of season 1 or beginning of season 2. But you're the one who felt like they had to leave. But at the same time, you could hear it in his voice. He's like emotional. He doesn't want to say anything that would upset her. But at the same time, he's also kind of like, well, you left. You made me stay here and you left.
That's what was so interesting about this, because we see Joe, who's so stern, become so emotional. And then also...
You mean like rattled about this stuff?
Yeah.
That's happening?
Well, I mean, he's crying.
He's suffering.
It's unlike him, is what I'm saying. It's the opposite of how his personality is. I say stern, but it's more like he's hardened in a way and reserved.
More
Because
than just his secrets.
you have to be in your job. I mean, you can't be weeping all over the reservation as you're like arresting people. It's not going to go over well. They're not going to take you seriously. They're going to be like, oh, weepy Leaphorn there, Weephorn.
Weepy Leapy.
And also to see that break for Jim, because he's always played it off. He's not like Leaphorn. He doesn't play it hardened. He plays it like the funny man. Everything just rolls off his back. It's not a big deal. No sweat. You're not interested because I didn't ask your clan? Who cares?
Who needs you anyway?
Yeah, it's obviously not how he feels. So seeing him kind of become emotional, and even at the end, he doesn't cry, but he does that thing where he laughs and he shakes his head. I have made a mistake. I should have said, it's good to hear your voice too.
Well, and it's also out of his hands either way. So that's another reason to kind of like, well, better than crying.
Yeah.
What else can I do?
But it's just interesting to see them both kind of more emotional in the season than we have previously.
If I had to take a guess, though, I do feel like the show may end up... So you know how sometimes when two people find where they're meant to be, or they find out who they are, or they reconcile their pasts and their futures and their presents, because they were going on similar journeys, they got entangled romantically. But kind of like when we were talking about these characters on a book level, I sort of felt like, well, it would be typical for them to wind up together, but I could easily see a path in which they don't. And that's fine. Kind of like you've always said about Daryl and Carol, and two, a female and a male. They don't have to be romantic. They can just be friends. Yeah, I can see that. They just kind of missed each other.
How many times have you known somebody in your life that like you had a huge crush on them, and then like years later you find out they had a crush on you, but like a year after that or whatever, and you're kind of like, whatever. It just didn't work out. Mm-hmm. And for me, I'm like, oh, it just wasn't meant to be, so it's fine. And you move on from it. But that is a realistic part of life. Two ships in the night kind of thing.
And that can be okay. And we move on and we do the things that we're meant to do. Unless it's one of those foibles where like, oh, no, we have to be together. Weren't we supposed to be together? Let's ruin our lives so that we get... That's also realistic too, by the way.
That's what people who ship people really want. So.
I'm 46 years old. No, that happens in real life. Anyway, for a reason, I got married at 37. Okay? Took me a while to figure things out up here. My point really being is that, yes, it doesn't have to end up that way. And I'm kind of mentally preparing myself for that possibility. I'm preparing you. It's fine. It's a thing. It's real. I like what you said about what we're expected to see, because what Leaphorn says at the end is probably the most unsettling, because I can write off all the things he sees. Maybe he could too. And he's cracking. What's expected of Leaphorn is exactly what he's exhibiting, but it's faltering. He's expected to protect everyone. And that's why he does what he does at the end of season 2 with BJ Vines. It's why seeing him, it's like his penance. He feels like I traded my sanity for justice. Well, at least that's probably what he is rationalizing right now, but it's not holding up. And then he realizes, well, the thing that he's been seeing can touch him and hurt him and claw him. Did that surprise you a little bit? Because like you said, it's leaping into this territory.
But the thing is, we didn't see what happened. Did it really? Or did he get so scared that he fell and hurt himself? Because we didn't see it actually touch him and hit him. We saw the thingy on the hanger come flying at us.
Yeah, like it did like a motion and in like a 70s film. Kidding.
It felt like I needed 3D glasses on.
And I still wouldn't have seen it.
What I was afraid of is that it was the kid coming through the door and he saw it as the monster and his gun went off and shot it. And I'm like, oh, dude, he shot the kid.
I was really worried that it was going to pan back to a dead body that he had shot.
On my first watch. Yeah,
I was terrified of that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And look, can you imagine Leaphorn having shot another person unintentionally or intentionally? I don't know. Again, you said this amusingly, Charity, in the last episode about BJ Vines. Like, well, he didn't really kill him. He just left him out to he just left him to his own devices in the freezing cold.
She's not wrong.
It's like, well, he didn't really kill him. He was afraid he was being attacked by a monster. It's legit.
Well, I mean, it's true. He was hallucinating madly.
Immediately after that, I had this sudden realization that he can't go on like this. And I'm going to say it like this because it actually makes more sense. I feel like he's going to, in some way, own up to Jenna Elfman. I said specifically Jenna Elfman because it's just like, yeah, it actually kind of makes sense.
She's not Sylvia anymore.
It's just Jenna Elfman.
So I wasn't planning on Sylvia being my name when I came on, but right before I had come on, I looked up what the name Sylvia meant. In Roman mythology, Sylvia was the goddess of the hunt. She's hunting, maybe?
Yeah, how did we not look that up already? Good call.
No idea. A lot of the American Greeks from way back did pick up names from the forefathers, like Washington, Lincoln, Adams is a predominant one, by the way. So I could see that being the case. If she is Greek, let's say, in this story, that'd be kind of cool.
It kind of is telling that she's there to wrap up some cases as the FBI, but the FBI is not interested at all in 2 missing kids.
Mm-hmm.
She's the Bernadette. She's sticking her nose in. And I don't know that she's necessarily hunting. No, like narratively, sometimes you just have to tie up that loose end that you see something is wrong. You still kind of.
I don't think she's really FBI. I think she's sent by somebody else to find out what happened to BJ Vines. Or she is FBI, but she's owned by someone in Washington.
She keeps mentioning, like, I'm here for these cases, but we have yet to see anything other than the BJ Vines case. We have no idea what else she's looking into.
That's the only one she keeps talking about.
Yes.
Well, the only one she actually talked about, technically. She seems to have a ton of paperwork, but that's the only one she actually mentions. And well put, because if you go, oh, hey, by the way, BJ Vines, right? Like I'm looking into all these, but this one right here, weird, right? How did he get away with that?
Be interesting to see how the dinner goes, because she's definitely going to
Yes,
go to the
I
dinner.
am very interested in this. I feel like Emma is not naive, but she's not exactly a lawyer either. She could be tripped up easily, but she doesn't know anything about BJ Vines or anything.
No.
But should Sylvia find out that they thought he was responsible for Joe Jr.'s death, then that would be a huge red flag thrown up. And all it would take is
Wow.
seeing the picture of Joe Jr. on the desk, which they made sure that we saw in this episode.
Yes, they did.
It would be absolutely nothing for them to be like, he died on the property that BJ Vines owns.
Yeah, and that would be motive. Sure.
Yeah.
See, that's why I keep thinking she could be the healer and also the hunter. Right? It could go either way
It's hard to gauge where she's at.
because she hasn't done anything.
You know she's digging
She's a pest
because
She's
of
an
what
ant.
she asks. How did they have all this evidence and they let him go?
How could this cushy, soft man used to this soft life just take off with no money? Because he's got rich
And a hot
friends,
wife.
dude.
Well, she said that this guy knew people in high places in the first episode.
Yeah, I'm interested as to why the wife isn't under any scrutiny.
Because they can't get hands on her. She's in Acapulco, remember?
I know, but like she could very easily have been the one who murdered him.
Listen, do you know why? Because they
Why?
couldn't pay Jerry Ryan for another season. It's
Well,
just,
yeah, now they're paying Jenna Elfman. They can't pay both.
It's that J money.
just save money here. They get
It's that J money.
that,
J money.
it's that blonde white girl money. Holla back.
Did we have an extradition treaty with Acapulco in the 70s? I don't know. Even Mrs. Vines at the end, she was like, who would ever suspect that of little old me? She was just a rich woman leaving her jerk husband.
I have oxygen on, but then I also suddenly was seen without it. So do you actually need it or were you faking it the whole time?
She's just a woman who was leaving her stupid, crappy husband.
Yeah.
Who fell in love with that fella, the Thomas, what's the name? Actually, it doesn't matter really because we didn't talk about it as much as we should have, I think. I don't know. Tomas something or other, who got killed and we saw in the ditch and the thing that happened. That was sad. And the kid, the kid.
And they didn't take the suitcase.
Didn't take the
That
suitcase.
bothers me every time I think about it.
Okay, can't wait for the dinner between Sylvia Washington, Emma, and Leaphorn. Although I can certainly not want to see what Joe will inevitably probably say that will screw the pooch. Because he's cracking. He's cracked. The blood ended up being from a horse and not from the murder. So that's one thing to be like, okay, then what is it from? Is it from a dark, spooky
And
skinwalker
my God,
monster race?
what horses did they do that with? Because that was really bloody. So obviously that horse must be dead or severely crippled.
Or, well, here's the thing, and this brings up a little tiny side tangent. Have you ever seen on TikTok or Instagram Reels the reshoeing thing? How like they peel the you know what I'm talking about, right?
It's Dr. Nate.
And sometimes they have to like express.
People be like eating ice cream that's got like caramel in it, you know, and it'll be like a fresh ice cream container, so you can only see like a tiny little piece of caramel, you know?
Right.
And they'll like play the audio from this Dr. Nate videos as they like scrape the ice cream. You can tell that this horse has been feeling quite uncomfortable. That infection is still there as they're like scraping away the ice cream. It's so funny.
It looks like it puts you off ice cream forever, basically.
The next time I see one, I'll have to send it to you, Dave.
Because if you actually watch those videos, okay, sometimes they express and sometimes blood is in that expression and it happens. Listen, they get hurt all the time. They get gravel, find its way all the way up in the actual shoe. And it's a lot like fingernail material. That's what the hooves are. They're this hardened
Keratin.
fingernail, basically. Yeah, thank you, keratin. So I can easily see a world in which that was the case with this one. The thing that really got me was, what is the symbolism with the rotten fruit in the top layer of the barn that Leaphorn sees? And it wasn't real?
I thought it was going to be like a dead body behind it.
That's what I thought too.
It was not. So what is the symbolism with the melons and the ants? And where's Cecil Bowlegs, the little kid with Leaphorn's ant farm? It spilled
and
over.
his ant farm's all knocked over. Yeah, wasn't that
They
ominous?
couldn't pay him for Jerry Ryan. Now Cecil. This is why they gave us the screeners. Like, we need more money. We need more eyes on this project. So
that's why they had to use CGI ants. They didn't have that big ant money.
they couldn't have an ant
Big
wrangler.
ant money.
like they did on Better Call Saul with the actual ant wrangler.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I have to say, I think this season is reeling me in a different way.
I was skeptical, and this episode kind of like, oh, well, but why though? Is it because of the prior two and we've built it up to a certain
I think it's because
point
the mystery just feels so big
and interconnected?
and scary.
Possibly.
And you're like, is this scary or is it going to be real? And
For you guys who like the horror, they've kind of leaned into the horror and the supernatural way more than they did in
Probably.
the first 2 seasons.
yeah.
And it's kind of like that roller coaster ride effect where you know there's guardrails, you know you can't fall off the ride, you know this is based in reality, but it's just how far are they going to take the spookiness, which they did in prior seasons, and it's all been nebulous still, but this took it to just another step. It just took a little step forward. I was about to say it, but the Yuri Bezmenov thing, it tries to push you in a certain direction, then comes back, and then they try to push you a little bit forward, then they push back, but all of a sudden you find yourself 100 feet away from where you were when you started, but the fact that they kept pushing you in a certain direction and then you're in this place that you never thought you'd end up, in a good way, at least in this series. So I find myself, again, season 3 seems to be putting me in a position where like, oh yeah, this is a little different, and I like it. I like that I'm here. Why are you yelling at Frankie / your husband?
I'm not yelling.
Your husband is A.
Frankie
Martinez with a
just
beard.
trotted in. She was like, don't. It was like so dumpy looking. I don't know. I was like, just lay down.
Was Frankie in a jumpsuit? Was it cinched?
Stop. Travis literally told me the other night. Literally the other night, I was like, we were talking about Frankie, and he's like, Frankie only thinks 2 things: food and the fact that she's a dog, and that's it. And I was like, that's not true, Travis. She has hope. She has dreams. She dreams of getting married one day. And then Travis was like, to who? You? Or the bed? Like, who's she gonna marry? And then I was laughing, and he goes, are you picturing her with an Elvis hair
Marrying?
and a jacket? And I lost my mind. So you just saying, did you picture her in a jumpsuit
And cheese sunglasses, right? Cheese sunglasses.
I need to make like a calendar of Frankie dressed up as ridiculous things from the 70s.
Oh, you know what you need to do?
He's yelling no from the other room. No.
Just run Frankie through the AI and just say, can you put this dog in?
Oh
We
yeah.
could do a doggy Leaphorn and Chi, because I could dress Otto up like one of them.
And of course, Bernadette did
That's so
date
cute.
Elvis, so relevance.
Right.
I know.
Your
The
Honor,
Elvis
I
Pompadour.
rest my case.
Well, if you like what you heard,
Yeah. If you like what you heard, head on over to ratethispodcast.com/squawking dead 5 stars and a sunglasses is all we need to know that you love us. Tell us what you liked. Tell us what you didn't like. Tell us what you think we might have missed. We may have missed some things. It's fine. It's okay. Just remember to tell us after every single episode. And if you really like what you've heard, consider just following us on ko-fi.com/squawkingdead or patreon.com/squawkingdead. It's where we post our recording schedules for free for you to attend for free. Not this time because we have screeners, so we're scrambling to get all these episodes down before April, whereby The Last of Us Season 2 will come out and all this. But see, when you do follow us, you're in the know for when we do record, right after we watch these episodes, hopefully ahead of time when it comes to The Walking Dead Dead City on AMC, because we have AMC Plus, and maybe we'll get screeners, who knows. But because of that, we will be posting our recording schedules ahead of time for you to join us in the studio for free again, because it's real-time chat and we love you. But if you're liking what you're seeing and you want this project to continue successfully and fruitfully, the best thing you can do for free is to head on over to our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/squawkingdead and subscribe. Enable notifications. Don't enable notifications. That's up to you. We'd appreciate it if you enabled all notifications, because it's the only way you're going to get notified when we drop new things on the channel, even shorts, like little clips, clippity clips. And sometimes they're not just shorts. They're not just little clips from the episodes. Sometimes they're little featurettes that we put up. You'll increase our watch hours. That's also free. Now, we would really appreciate it if you tipped us on ko-fi.com/squawkingdead. It's ko-fi.com/squawkingdead, because when you do, you'll get our unedited episode recordings. Even these, at some point, we'll be releasing these ahead of time. It's a little perk that you get from us, along with instant and forever access to our Discord. When you join a membership tier for as little as $4 a month, you get even more access to our Discord. Again, forever access, but a little bit more access to some channels. If you happen to join the Whispers, Survivors, or Great M tier, you will get a free classic t-shirt upon signing up. And if you happen to join the top 2 tiers, which is the Survivors and the Great M tier, you can show up alongside us, breaking down these episodes with us as we talk about them with your face, head, mouth, mic, earphones, headphones, whatnot, face, body, mouth, Jim Chi sunglasses, Bernadette's jumpsuit, Leaphorn's crying alongside with us. Support our podcast is what we're saying. Join our membership tier. Make it so that we can do more than we're able to do right now. We're not making any money, but if we get to the point where we're making money and we're actually putting stuff in our pockets and paying our mortgages and stuff like that, we can finally actually start working on this full time, giving you so much more content than you've bargained for. Or at least I can stop and dedicate more to this podcast so that these ladies can just give us the talent and I can give them more money with the things that they're doing in actual money. It really helps. Again, Ko-fi.com/SquawkingDead, Patreon.com/SquawkingDead. Check it out. Check out the perks. Tip us on Ko-fi and or join our membership tier on either of those 2 platforms. I've been your host, David Cameo, and I was joined by
Lazy Gardner.
And Bridget. You can find me at ko-fi.com/punkybrewster. That's PUNKYBRUISETER.
Just doesn't have the same rhythm when Rachel's not here, does it?
It doesn't. It feels weird.
It's like what is it called? A scratch? A record scratch?
Yeah. Insert that in, Dave.
I was joined by... Take care, everybody. We'll see you in the next one where we get to see this awkward dinner happen, hopefully, I think,
Yes,
maybe. Because we
can't
don't know.
wait.
We're not watching ahead. We're
we're not.
along the ride with you. Awkward. Everything is awkward. And I can't wait to see the next episode. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye. See you later.
Goodbye now. Goodbye.
Bye.
Drive Grover's Corners.
Not our town.
I cry every time.
Ugh. Barf.
That's barf.
A wee porn over
A
here.
young Kirk Cameron.
Leaphorn.
Oh, that's it, guys. I love Jesus now. I'm Kirk Cameron.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Did you get the reference?
Okay.
I do.
Yeah.
I'd like to be left behind now. Bye.
Yes.
Thank you again for making it to yet another episode of Squawking Dead, covering Dark Wind's 2nd episode of its 3rd season titled Náá'tsoh, which means Big Eyes. Sometimes I think you wonder why I come back again and say goodbye to you at the end of every episode. It's not only for sentimental reasons, because it is, and I find it hard to say goodbye to every single episode that we do, for the time that we spend together, both me and the rest of my hosts, but also the time I get to spend with you. In addition to this, we release these episodes both in video format and audio format, so that's why sometimes you'll see a little bit at the end thanking the folks who keep this podcast running via their memberships, namely the Great M Survivors and Whispers tier members in that order. So I'd like to start with the Great M tier, which is comprised of @RealRyanGM on Instagram and X. I'd like to move on to the Survivors tier, which is comprised of Douglas Atherton @WalkingDeadArtist, the number 2 on Instagram. Moving on to our Whispers tier members, we have @ElizaJones71 on Instagram, or @JonesAJ6 on X. And of course, on Facebook, we have @Kim.Rowley, the number 1. I'm glad you're here with us, listening to us break down our thoughts, feelings, and insights into Dark Winds. Some latest intel on how the series is doing is that between season 2 and season 3, its audience metrics has jumped up 50%, which is absolutely unheard of for a series. It's not to say that doesn't happen, but it rarely does. Oftentimes, when a series has gone on this long, its audience actually dwindles over time, but in this case, it's gone up. I think that is in large part due to AMC reaching out to its content creators of other series like The Walking Dead and offering them screeners like they did with us, allowing them to, on a grassroots level, promote the series in their own way, along with actually doing the work of promoting and advertising the series ahead of time, during, throughout. It's really good to see AMC step up its game when it comes to marketing the series, and I hope you're enjoying it too. That's really the point of this whole experiment. It's kind of like when we're doing Earth Abides. You never know what a series is going to turn out looking like, and you just have to kind of give it a fair shake. It's not always going to work, and either way, I hope you enjoy the journey that we've all taken when it comes to discussing any series, including this one. So until the next episode, just remember that we are Squawking Dead.